Hi everyone. So IMT Ghaziabad interviews are known to be profile based and communication focused, but what actually happens inside the PI? Let's hear from a real experience. So today we are talking to Vedant Gupta, who appeared for the Institute of Management Technology Ghaziabad PI. Let's get straight into it. So Vedant, what is your background and why IMT Ghaziabad?
My background is basically I did my graduation in an engineering degree in computer science background, and during my graduation I did some startups, and even after that, basically my whole profile is based on these startup experiences that I have had and the startup experiences I've had with my brother. So IMT specifically because I really wanted to go into marketing and learn. I wanted to go into GMT roles basically, in which marketing is mostly needed, which is why I thought IMT Ghaziabad would be good. And it's very near to the Delhi NCR, so it's like connected to the corporate hub there, which is a major advantage for that. Plus its own case study based competition culture. I mean, one of the examples is IMFC, right? Like I'm a freshman consultant, which is a program they run just purely for new freshers who join. And yeah, pretty much there are programs going on almost every week, which are organized by industry leaders themselves to give industry exposure to students. So I thought that is why IMT would be a good choice.
That's really nice. So what was your first reaction when you got the IMT interview call?
I mean, I was expecting it actually. IMT was a backup college for me. I am aiming for XLRI and those colleges. So I thought IMT would be a good backup for me if would be able to convert for them.
That's nice. So how did you prepare specifically for IMT PI?
Um, IMT basically, I wanted to get a very strong why IMT answer, which I already told you about, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, I am from Delhi myself, so it's very easy for me to justify IMT. And I'm wanting to go into marketing as well, which IMT is known for. But aside from that, I searched about its alumni, its own core values that IMT has. Then basically IMT interview, what my mentor told me that most of it is going to be from my resume, and that is what happened, right? Everything that the interviewer asked me was based on my own, like for me, basic personally, it was for the startup experiences only, so it was very smooth.
That's really nice. So, how was the panel and overall vibe? Is it more strict or is it more conversational?
So like my experience was not the general experience, I would say, because there were like I was a sequence 14 in my panel, so 13 more people went before me, and at least in the early the panel was sweet in almost all of the cases. There were 8 panels on that day, and all of the feedback that I got from the students was that all the panels were very sweet and they did not really grill anyone, but they did not really ask any HR answers. That was one thing that stood out, I think. For me personally, they did ask about like to introduce myself, but the initial interviews they did not even ask any HR answers, just went directly into maybe a domain or just on their views. The CT, they also asked a lot of CT specific questions that happened earlier. Yeah, pretty much that.
So, as you mentioned, most of them didn't ask HR related questions. So, what kind of questions really dominated? Is it profile based, academics, current affairs, or people workings?
So from in the earlier interviews, they asked like one question that they asked to everyone in the first 4 sequences was, how will you rebrand IMT? Like IMT is facing a lot of competition from other new age colleges like Masters Union or Alteria Institute. How would you like to market IMT in a way that it stands out? Then they asked about, like to me specifically, they asked about who was my favorite business leader, and then they asked about who's my least favorite business leader, both of which I responded as Elon Musk. It was very easy to justify that. And then they asked me about me personally, they did not ask GK, but other panelists did ask GK, but they did not ask any static GK. They only asked recent current affairs. Like, for example, they asked about budget. They did not even ask about UK, sorry, US India deal. They only asked like a month before, like everything that has happened a month before. So like a UK and India deal that they asked about, but not any details. But the questions I would say to me, they asked about. Uh, Firstly, of course, this business leader. Then they asked a lot about my startup and why did I close them and why did I feel any regret closing them? How would I change stuff if I wanted to? And what am I doing right now and stuff like that.
Okay, so is there like any question that caught you off guard or made you think deeply? Like you didn't prepare for it, but they asked it.
Um, I think my experience was very smooth. They did not really ask much. Like again, I got to introduce myself, and then everything that I wanted them to ask me, they asked. Like I specifically made my introduction in a way that I am speaking loudly at points where I wanted them to focus, and they focused on those points. They focused on my hobbies a lot. In fact, the early 3 minutes, they focused only on my hobby, and then they focused on my business leader and then on my startups. They did give me a slide case, but it was also related to my startup only. So they asked like if like for like I'm working in my brother's B2B startup. So they asked like what if one of my revenue streams stops working, which I'm currently building for. So what will I do? So stuff, but it was also related to the startup only. So I won't really call it a like case, but yeah, it was very smooth.
So, what do you think, like, as per in your opinion, IMT Ghaziabad actually looking for in a candidate?
I think firstly is communication. They are really looking for someone uh, who is able to communicate his ideas properly, who's confident. Everyone who was confident in their initial answers, their interview went much more smoothly than the others. They, they did grill some people, but only those who were not able to answer the first few questions confidently. Then they look for someone who's able to think on the spot. So like a lot of like a lot of the panelists, especially in the earlier parts of the interviews, they did ask some questions like, "How will you rebrand?" I'm like, this is not something that you prepare for, right? Like this is on the spot thinking on based on business concepts. So like they also asked, uh, "Was is India too passive?" as a question to people. Again, this is not something you can prepare for. This was something on the spot thinking based on your business mind and the knowledge of business domains that you have. One thing though, like, is that in the CT, they did ask a lot about the CT. Like the CT that you gave, for me, in fact, that's the only grilling question that I received. That they straight up said that I did not understand anything that you wrote, like in a very rude manner, and they said, "Explain to me what do you actually mean by it." But otherwise, it was very smooth.
That's really nice. Any one word for IMT PI?
I would recommend people to go soon because the interview is first come, first place. So even like it was at 12 was the reporting time. I reached at 11:55, but still I was one of the last people to go to the interview. Every, all the slots were filled. So I had to wait there till 6 o'clock while others left. So if you want to and even in the early PIs, it's all